Okay, so this movie is going to be focusing on how to get a roof structure working over your house. What I've got here is the house we're familiar with, and also I've got a T-shaped top part of our house here, just to quickly show you how to do a slightly more complicated roof. I've just missed out the bottom part of the house, just to keep things simple. So we'll start off with this house that we're familiar with, and what we're going to do is put a ceiling on, and then we're going to do a simple, I guess, 4 triangular shaped roof, just so everything's meeting up in the middle, and there'll be one high point in the middle of the roof around about here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a rectangle, and we're going to click over on one endpoint and then one on the other endpoint, and this will make our ceiling. But because we've put that on there now, it's also sealed off my door because we've added in an extra line because that was part of that rectangle. And if you remember with SketchUp, as soon as you join all of the lines that can make up a solid face, it will make that solid face. So what I'm going to do with my selection tool is I'll click here, and then I'm going to delete that, and now we've got the inside component of our house. Now, in order to get a little bit of thickness to our roof, I'll go extreme a little bit, so it's a little bit over the top, but I'm going to click with my pen tool over on this corner, snap it to the endpoint. I haven't actually clicked anything on my mouse yet, and I'll click once with my left mouse, and I'm going to go straight up in the air on my blue axis. Okay, so that'll be far enough for me. Now I'll click once and everything's good, and I'll press escape so it doesn't keep trying to draw a line. Now I'm going to also do this on every other corner. Now to get it to be exactly the same height, there's a nice little trick we can use, and that is that we click once to start a line, we hover our mouse over on this other line that we want to be the same height, and then after a few seconds of doing that, I can then go back over here. Now it's getting a little bit confused because there are other lines here, so what I'm going to do is change my angle and my perspective again a little bit. And again, I'll try that. So I've still got my line trying to draw here. I'm going to hover my mouse over for a couple of seconds, come back over here, and you can see that red line extending out. So what it's trying to do by hovering my mouse over there, it knows that I want to match up to be at the same orientation as that endpoint there. So now that I've got my blue line going up vertically and I've got my red dotted line going across horizontally, when I click, I know that that one is exactly the same height as this one. So I'm going to press escape now, and we'll just go around and do all of our corners, corner lines. So I'm on the endpoint here. Again, click to go vertical, hover my mouse over here to start off with, and then I go back over to this corner. Now this time it's a little bit harder to see, but it's got a very light green dotted line there. So I'm going to click, and I've got the right one there, and escape to get off that line. Always wants to keep trying to draw them again. And the last one will go from this corner and draw up, and it's made that prediction. Even though I haven't had to hover my mouse over, it's figured out that I want it to be the same height. So sometimes SketchUp is a little bit clever and it figures things out for you. So I'll click there, and now I've got my 4 lines. And what I'm going to do from that point is, I'll press escape to get rid of that. I'm going to go back over to my rectangle, and I'll go from here to here, and that creates a nice solid flat top. So that's one option. The other option I could do is I could just do individual lines, and I could go from here to there, there to there. So this is a slower way, but I'm just trying to show you a couple of different ways you can do it, and then that does exactly the same thing because we've now made up all of those surfaces. So now we've got a nice flat roof, and you might have a house design where it actually does have a flat roof, and congratulations, you'd be done by this point. But we do want to make our roof a little bit higher, just so when the rain hits, it runs off nice and quickly. So I want it to be directly in the middle. So what I'm going to do here is put in some construction lines, which are extra lines which help to make sure I'm building things in the right spot. So I'm going to go from this corner to this corner, and I'll do the same thing here, here to here. So by doing those 2 lines overlapping, I know that this is exactly in the middle. And then I'm going to draw a line from here going up into the air. So blue, I click, and I'll escape to get off that line tool, and I know that that's now going straight up in the air because it was blue. So at this point, I don't need these lines anymore, so I'm going to go around and delete them all, because it's really important with SketchUp, whenever you don't need a line anymore, get rid of it. It keeps things nice and simple. So that is where all of my parts of my roof are going to join up to. So back onto my pen tool, and I'm going to go from that endpoint to this endpoint down here. and escape, and then that endpoint to this endpoint, and when I click, it's going to make a triangle. There you go, nice and simple. Now I'm going to go around all the other corners of the roof and do that, but because we've got this point here, that means we no longer need this line. So that can disappear. Again, we're getting rid of unnecessary lines. So back on my pen tool, click from that corner to there, and that corner to there, and now we've got a nice solid simple roof. We've got the ceiling going on there. The only thing that I'd work on improving if I was going to really try and make this perfect would be make the floor a little bit more solid, just like we did with the ceiling here, so that we didn't see these lines underneath. So that's one way of doing a simple roof. We're now going to look over on this T-shaped one, and I'll show you a different way to do it. And there are other ways you can do roofs, but these are just a couple of techniques that are useful. So in this situation, I'm not going to start off with my pen tool. I'm going to start off with my rectangle, and I want a rectangle that's sticking straight up from this edge. So I'm going to angle my camera so I'm looking at it from the edge, and I want it to be exactly here. Now it's not snapping for me, so what I need to do, just like we did before, is hover my mouse on that corner, and now when I go up, it figures out that I want it to be exactly there, which is what I want. There we go. So we've now got a rectangle that is perfectly lined up, and it's important that things line up perfectly, otherwise you don't get solid surfaces being formed when you want them to. Now, I don't want this to be a big blocky roof. I want this to be a triangular roof that extends out along the green axis. So I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to find the midpoint of this line. So there it is, light blue. Click from there to my green endpoint, and the same thing from there. Now I'll just point out this one's coming green now, not blue, because suddenly I've got an endpoint of that line. So sometimes it might be light blue or green, as long as you've got one of those, and I'll go down to there. So there's my triangle. With my selection tool, I'm now going to get rid of these, and because I got rid of one line, suddenly it can't be a solid, so I got rid of that, and I'll select that line and get rid of it. I could select that solid and delete it, but then I've still got to go through and delete both the lines anyway. So now I've got the nice triangular shape that I'm going to extend through. And I'll just pan over here so we can see this a bit better. And I'm going to use the cool tool of SketchUp again, the push pull. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to drag it all the way out to the end. And there we go, snap to the endpoint and left click. And now we've got a nice triangular roof. All right, so again, we're dealing with triangles, but it's different to the way that we did this roof over here. Now, we've got another part of our roof, so we're going to do something that's a little bit different. We'll start off in a similar way. We'll do a rectangle, and we won't make it go quite as high this time. So I'm hovering my mouse over that endpoint again, and then dragging it up. So we'll do this one a little bit lower, and I'll do another pen, but this time I'll go and do it right at an angle over here. I'm going to delete these lines I don't want anymore. And we've now got a slightly different shaped roof. We're going to use the push-pull. And as we go along here, it says offset limited, which means it won't let me get any further than where I am, because otherwise it would be going into this other roof. Now I'm going to left click, and that's okay for me because I'm going to fix that up now. So what I'm going to do is that if I look back a little bit, let's change my angle so it's a little bit easier for you to see, and pan up. My red axis is the one that I want this roof to extend into a little bit more, and that's important because you'll see that in one of the lines I'm about to draw. So on my pen tool, select that one there. I'm going to extend this line along here out until it intersects this roof. And I want it to be red, so it means it's going in the right direction for me. So click on there once, extend out, and then it comes up with a dark blue saying it's on the face, which is perfect. The line's red, which means it's going in the exact direction I want, and it's going to join the roof. So I'm going to left click, and now while that pen tool is still active, I'm going to go down to this end here and left click. And now we've got that roof joining up perfectly. You can see there's something we need to get rid of though, and that is this line. Ooh, not that surface, this line here. Delete that. And that's starting to look a lot nicer. The only thing we're missing is this section here. So again, I'm going to draw another line from here to here. That's sealed that off nicely with one unnecessary line now that I can get rid of. So now we've got two different styles of roofs that have been made using a series of rectangles and triangles, using the push-pull, and just being a little bit clever with our use of the pen and our knowledge of the red, the blue, and the green axes and which direction they're pointing in. So there is one last thing that can be really handy when you're working on 3D objects in SketchUp, and that is this thing called the section plane. Now I'll show you that in the next movie that'll be directly underneath this one, just to break it up a little bit. Okay, so practice doing your roof structures. The next little assignment task you'll have to do will be to create your own version of a cheese-shaped roof and a rectangular shaped roof. So good luck with that.